What's good, y'all? This is Chase, and welcome to We Are StoneHouse, where art meets our foundation. And you're now tuned into the third episode of the StoneHouse Podcast, which is entitled We're Back and We're Good, Part 2. Before I start, I want to dedicate this episode to my late uncle, Irvin Beasley. Rest in peace, Unc. I love you, and I'll forever miss you. This is the ending testimony of episode 1, part 1 of We're Back and We're Good, released back in January. I'm not going to hold y'all, left y'all at a cliffhanger, but this episode will dive deeper into what happened in 2022, which made me a stronger man in 2023. So, before I dive right into it, I'll give y'all a quick recap of what happened in episode 1, part 1 of We're Back and We're Good. So when I left y'all last, my self-value was very low due to an unhealthy relationship, toxic job environment, forcing my own perspective and control on my purpose, and desiring to build my emotional and mental strength. So I went to a New Year's Eve music event in Charlotte where I rediscovered my love for music, and man, I just wanted better for myself, for real. Like, I knew I wasn't satisfied with where I was at that current stage, so just try to organize myself in God's words that he gave me during that time, which said, like, Chase is going to be a great year. And so I decided to give him more leeway for his favor and his path for my life. So moving past the recap, we're now in March 2022, and everything around me was just spiraling and shaking so fast in ways that I never thought were possible, which shows that it was truly God's work. Professionally, I was just not feeling appreciated, and I didn't agree with their treatment of students, which led to coworkers and I having disagreements on several topics. Now, my love life, there was just too much negative energy and nothing was clear, which led to me being inconsistent with my energy and my focus in my grad classes. Everything was just too much, which led to me stepping away from everything. And I stopped holding on to an eventual breakup with my long-term girlfriend at the time. Definitely not gonna hold you. It was like super hard not to respond to anything and not say my side on things, but I decided to like actually sit in everything because I had no positive way to turn and just ignoring the subliminals on social media. But I just tried, and I mean heavy on the try, to let God lead it all. So I began to heal. Kind of, not really, to be honest with you. I was so used to this word healing in different contexts that I just thought it meant almost like revenge. In a way, I was just seeking invalid validation. So when I say I was seeking invalid validation, I was just healing the way everyone else thought it was cool to heal. Go outside, do different things, meet new women. But overall, I was just not finding my purpose, not listening to my own voice, and just I wanted that, okay, Chase, you're doing better, instead of knowing it myself. Yeah, so some examples of that was rushing physical changes, splurging. I'm definitely more the investment type of spender, so going dumb with the money, going on random dates, maybe getting like 3 hours of sleep max every night during the week and on the weekends, turning in my grad assignments late, just overall in denial. I was just moving frantically and just out of control. All right, moving forward, now we're in the time frame of April 2022 to June 2022, which I call Mad Depression. Around Palm Sunday weekend, everything was catching up to me, and I didn't know where to turn to or who to turn to. Overall, God wanted more from me, but I just wasn't listening for real. I felt like I knew all the answers, and only I knew all the answers. I felt like God was saying, all right, you think you got everything under control? Bet. Let's see how long this works out for you. With that being said, I moved back home with my parents and started to isolate myself, which means I fell out with friends. I didn't go outside. I was definitely off social media and took a leave of absence from work. So the only consistent thing I had in my schedule was going to my home church. God was still pulling me in, but still, I did not want to live. Every day was a long battle, and every hour of the day was a totally new mood. Every day, I was figuring out and wondering to myself, how did I get here? Like, I knew better. But still, it was filled with regret, doubt, frustration, and hopelessness. to be transparent, I felt like this was the lowest point I'd ever been in my life, which led to the decision to get back into therapy. So around my birthday in mid-June, I resigned from my toxic job and realized that I missed working in the school system. Eventually, I put my somewhat trust into God, right? Found new healthy coping skills. I figured out a plan for StoneHouse and my career. I found out also that everything in my life should support me and my vision first. And I was still not 100% clear, but I was definitely growing. So what jump-started the bounce back was journaling, creating new music, finding new music and artists, going on self-dates, which was like finding new restaurants, new places to go to by myself, which was totally out of my comfort zone, spending quality time with family members, and being more involved at church and with God daily. So now we're in July 2022, and I call this time frame fast change. So I was enjoying my summer to myself, but I wanted to get back involved in school counseling. So I got a call from one of my mentors to work summer school in Prince William County. In my love life, I was not looking for anything too serious. I told myself maybe 3 to 5 years to get back into the game. So I was working with the same summer school counseling staff as years before, but there was one new counselor, and her coworker from the same base school would walk in and only speak to her. So one day, the counselor asked me, would I be interested in getting her number? And I said to myself, like, man, it wouldn't hurt. I'm in a healthier spot. I'm accepting myself through my ups and my downs. And honestly, I want something healthy, but still love myself fully. And I mean, honestly, the attraction was there, right? She seemed pretty cool, but distant and shy. And she interacted with kids pretty well. So I got the number, had a good conversation over text, and I asked her on a date the following Saturday. And we just clicked ever since then. And the craziest part about all of this that we didn't know, her dad was one of my mentors and my cousin's best friend from college. Like, my cousin was her godfather. You couldn't tell me that wasn't God. As for academically and professionally, I was doing well. I could focus, and I was getting job offers left and right. Life was moving pretty quickly, but I was so happy. So I decided to stop working so hard on my self-progress and individual growth. I got comfortable, and God knew it. All right, so moving forward, now we're in August 2022 to October 2022, and I call this time frame unknown triggers to happiness. Bro, I was shocked by God's grace, and I was able to function by myself. People around me would recognize that same growth, and I had several coping skills in place. Everything was moving fine. Personally, I feel like I evolved. I was back comfortable at my apartment for several months. And for my love life, it was mad healthy. It's everything we both prayed for, and we expressed that several times. Now, it was minor triggers there, but we were able to move past it. In the relationship, I took a higher stance on controlling my emotions and communicating effectively. I would always say, nah, we don't do that. Tell me how you feel. What's going on? I was emotionally available, but also had enough direction and clarity to express what I deserved and what I wanted. Now, professionally, everything was moving forward, but I knew it would take some time. And academically, I was back focused on my grad classes, involved in student leadership, and could feel closer to graduation every day. And of course, spiritually, I was heavily involved in my church's rebuild. Everything felt too real to be true. And since everything was cool and God showed up, I could really chill, which is a sermon within itself. Faith without works is dead. Overall, I just stopped depending on God's work again. As months went along, similar problems from the past reappeared. Things like overthinking, assuming, self-doubt, pretty much everything negative from my quote-unquote past life was affecting my relationship, my motivation for work, and personal self-value. I forgot all the rules and standards that I created for myself. Despite disagreements, uncertainty, and not having clear solutions on all phases of life, I wanted to make it work because everything positive came so easy and so fast. I mean, even my family and friends were extremely happy for me. I had a new job, had a new girl, and I seemed to bounce back. Although I was struggling to adjust to this new lifestyle, I decided to fight through it, and I moved into my new apartment in late October. My life looked great on paper, but I was starting to struggle. All right, so moving forward, now we're in November 2022 to December 2022, and I call this time frame shock and life reset. Nah, like for real, when I tell you God wakes you up when you become comfortable, God wakes you up. And I'm not trying to preach to y'all, but I feel like everything I prayed for on the surface level was coming true, but still feel like something was off. Like the math wasn't mathing. I didn't carry the 1, didn't divide by 2. Everything was just shifted. I realized that I was selling myself short and holding myself back from my original goal by living through God's word in my dark times. As a result, things started to crumble out of my control. That once healthy interaction with the girl became daily disagreements, which led to a complete cutoff. And I'm not gonna lie, I needed to regain my emotional intelligence and reset my self-worth. Now, emotionally, I tapped back into self-care and a healthy lifestyle, which included therapy, self-reflection, and journaling, with a new addition of meditating every night. Professionally and academically, I was doing my practicum at an elementary school and working at an alternative high school at night. I was still getting job offers, but I wanted to wait for the correct spot while gaining more experience and building connections with students. Personally, I was planning harder for Stonehouse and followed up with previous plans. I wanted to follow through and set a creative outlet for the future with sincerity. Also, I was heavily involved with my church, leading the rebuild for our young adult ministry and music ministry. But most importantly, I enjoyed time with my family and loved ones. I had to check my circle. Overall in December, I had a heavy realization. I just wanted to be consistent, day in and day out, in all aspects. Spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And I'm not going to sit here and just say everything was just clean again, but I allowed myself grace for once and just embrace the journey. To be transparent, I remember one night I was hurting and down bad, but God continued to give me subtle encouragers through the rebuild, and He'll do the same thing for you. For example, I remember scrolling through Instagram around that same time, and I saw a quote, "Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional." All right, so now, moving forward, we're in January 2023 to present day. And my percentage of giving God full control has gotten way better, and I feel the improvement. I'm walking different, I'm talking different, and I'm understanding my purpose more and more. And I'm closer to God than ever before. I'm working on my patience and my pace, I'm finding new hobbies, and I'm taking healthier risks. In the meantime, God's still working out miracles. I'm close to graduating with my master's, and I'm working on my internship at a great high school under my old high school counselor, who's now one of my mentors and their counseling director. I got my own office. I'm impacting the kids to come to counseling. They got me involved in student versus staff events by popular vote, and I'm sponsoring clubs and social emotional groups. And most definitely, Stonehouse has been a blessing. I appreciate all the love and support I've gotten thus far, but it's only the beginning of what God has in store. Overall, I've matured through mistakes, experiences, and perseverance, and I feel like this is a new chapter of life. The main theme of this episode is that God has a master plan. Despite hardships, uncertainty, doubt, despair, and difficulty, God has never left me, and He won't leave you either. Another point God dropped on me when I was scrolling on my phone during a rough time was a small video. The video stated, "Many of my children are ready to be on display without being fully developed." To me, that's the true testament of my 2022. God needed to mold me to understand Him better and be a true vessel of His word and His will. And simply put, He'll take care of everything else. And the advice I would give myself for back in January 2022 would be to accept the pain, acknowledge the downfalls, and move in a clean slate. Because every day is a new lesson and an opportunity to grow. God doesn't give us the mindset of anxiety. And some of my worst fears, they happened this past year. But still, God got me through it. Man, to wrap this up, I want to thank y'all for listening to the StoneHouse Podcast, Episode 3, We're Back and We're Good, Part 2. Make sure you go tap into the new playlist out now, We're Back and We're Good Part 2, and subscribe to the Stonehouse Society on our homepage at wearestonehouse.com for updates on new and upcoming projects. You can also follow us on Instagram at We Are StoneHouse. Until next time, stay safe, keep loving on your loved ones, and God bless.